Would you like to see some alternate ways to cut cardstock? Come on in.
Hello, welcome to Senior Susie Stamps. I'm Julia Laird, and today I wanted to talk a little bit about how I cut card bases. I use a lot of A2 cards, both the side fold and the top fold cards, but I also use a lot of other card sizes, and today I want to talk about how to maximize your cut out of an 8.5 by 11 piece of paper so that you get as many cards and as much usable paper after your cut as possible. So come on, let me show you. Now, we're all familiar with A2 size cards where you take an 8.5 by 11 piece of paper and you either cut it down the middle this way, or it's the same piece of paper and you cut it down the middle the other way. But today I want to show you a little bit about some other potential cuts for paper. This first one is the 5 1/4 inch square card. And when I cut mine, in the hierarchy of cuts, I cut my 5 1/4 inch long ways this way, and that maximizes your piece of scrap that you have. So this is 5 1/4 by 10.5. And I have a usable strip here, and I have a very usable strip here, but you only get one card out of your piece of cardstock. So that's the first one, 5 1/4 inch square. The other sizes that I like to use in my studio are the 4 1/4 inch square, mini slimline, and A6 size. Now, when I cut the mini slimline or the A6, I always make my first cut be my 4 1/4 inch square. So this is the way I cut that. I cut 4 1/4 inches off the piece of 8.5 by 11, so this is 4 1/4 by 8.5, and it makes your 4 1/4 inch card. This other piece then, I cut. The next cut that I make is this 1/2 inch cut, and that brings us down to a
6 1/4 inch piece.
And I make it 6.5 by 6 1/4. And this is the scrap that you have left. And then when you fold it, you have a mini slimline card. You have 2 cards out of this piece of paper. You have a nice size scrap left and a very usable sentiment strip. The third example that I have is for a 4 1/4 inch square card, the one we just saw. And this time I'm going to take a 3/4 inch strip off, which leaves me only 6 inches left on this end. So it's basically 2 cuts, 4 1/4 inch and 3/4 inch. And then this is a 6 by 4 1/4 A6 size card that goes in my stash. And they're very usable. And the only piece that I have left over then from this combination of cuts is this 3/4 inch strip. And there's all kinds of things that you can do with that. I want to show you what I have done with these scraps that were left from the cuts that were not card bases and were not just these little small pieces here. So let me go get them and I'll show them to you. Hang on. Now, I used black cardstock today, but when I did the cut up work for this video, I used my 110-271 GSM paper, so it's heavier weight paper than this black cardstock was. And one of the things that you could do with this piece that was left over is to do a little smaller top card and just make your card into an easel card. It's just a little different. This is an A2 size card, but it utilizes this piece of paper in a little different manner than die cuts. Let me show you the die cuts that I've got here. This is a Fiskars thick punch, and I punched these little small circles with a little bit cut off out of this piece of paper that was the scrap here. And I use those for labels and just for stamping. So that's one thing you can do. And this is a Fiskars Punch, and I got it from Amazon. It's 2-inch thick circle punch. I used a die, this one here, and I believe this is Spellbinder's die, to cut several little labels. Oh, here they are. Several little labels, and they work very well. They came out of the other end of that piece that we were just looking at here. So I cut one of these out and I punched a 2-inch circle out of the other end, and it used up this entire piece of paper then. On this strip that was left from the 5 1/4 inch card, I cut it into thirds, and then I cut these out of a Big Z die, and it is this one. It's a Tim Holtz die, 66440, and it makes these really nice little frames, as well as the frame inserts, which you can use for labels, or you can use them raised up in the middle, or raise your frame up behind them. You can use them all kinds of different ways. So that's what I cut the frames out of. And the next one that I used was this Sizzix die, 659184, and I cut these shapes out of. Now this particular box also has an embossing folder in it that you can emboss these after you cut them. The other Big Z die that I used was another Tim Holtz, 664166, and I used this small butterfly, and you get the body of the butterfly as well as the butterfly. I did one more, and it was this additional Tim Holtz die, 662169, and I only cut the bows out of that, and that completely used up all of these strips that were left over from the 5 1/4 inch square card. So be adventuresome and think about other ways that you can use your cardstock to make other sized cards. I keep all of mine in this little napkin holder that I got from the Dollar Tree, so they're all right there handy for me.
So this is the card bases and all of the die cuts that I got out of the scraps. This is Julia Laird, and I hope you come back soon. Bye-bye.